Hey everybody, welcome back to the football fandemic. You'll notice Matthew is still our homer, Colts homer is still gone. He's on sabbatical for the rest of the semester, so it is just me and Brandon. And we thought we'd jump on, talk about everything happening in the NFL: the cuts, the trade rumors, the signings, the franchise taggings, the re-signings, the retirings, everything in the NFL is going on. And we will break it down for all of you, our opinions of it, where these players will go, and we'll jump right into it right now. So to start off, our news, we have Jason Kelsey retiring. I mean, kind of all I kind of all expected this at some point. I mean, he's 14 years in the league. He had a great career. He almost retired last year. So, I mean, we kind of expected this at some point this offseason. I mean, what do you think, Brandon?
I think it's appropriate he retired. It's what a legacy of a career that the dude had for being an undersized linebacker center
Mhm, mhm.
combo coming into the NFL with Andy Reid and turning him into someone who I think will be a Hall of Fame center. And depending on how Travis Kelsey continues, it might be our first Hall of Fame brother duo that we have in Canton.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, like you said, I mean, I didn't know this until reading it when he retired, of course, but he actually was a walk-on running back at Cincinnati and turned into a offense lineman, I imagine center, maybe the other position at Cincinnati, but and got drafted in like the fourth or fifth round of for the Eagles in like 2011 or 2010. So for him to have that career out of a mid round pick from a running back to a center and have a Hall of Fame career like he did is just amazing for him, especially for what he was, I guess, looked at when he was drafted.
You can also mark this day as the end of the tush push era. No more
True.
brotherly
True.
shove. That was like 90% him.
Moving on to other news, another retiree, another legend of the game in his own right. Matthew Slater retires after, I believe, 14 or 15 years in the league as a special teams player for the Patriots. I know special teams players get overlooked majorly in the Hall of Fame voting, such as Steve Tasker and Brian Mitchell and Devin Hester up until this year. But the accolades and the numbers speak for himself. He is a 15 or 16-year vet in the NFL, played special teams most of his whole life, 10-time Pro Bowler, five-time All-Pro, or five-time first-team All-Pro, three-team second-team All-Pro, and just a juggernaut of a special teams gunner on for the punt return team, and the kick return team. I can't imagine this guy not being in the Hall of Fame once, I'd say 15, 20 years down the line. I just mentioned Steve Tasker. Slater, how good Steve Tasker was. Slater actually broke Steve Tasker's all time Pro Bowl honor recognition as a special teams player or a special teams gunner. So I can't imagine Slater will not be in the Hall of Fame at some point.
I don't know if I can fully go in there. I understand the value that he's provided to the special teams era, but given how undervalued they are in Canton
Mhm.
and how it took Devin Hester this long, who's the greatest special teams player we've ever had, to get in, I think it might be pulling teeth, and it depends on any new rules that come out for the kick return. Sounds like they were looking at the XFL model,
Mhm.
and it'll be
Mhm.
a much larger part of the game. So if that starts happening, his stats will quickly diminish in comparison to some of these younger guys.
Well, it would
Well,
more only more so diminish Hester or guys like Hester, Dante Hall, and Brian Mitchell in that because they're I didn't actually include this, but thank you for reminding me. They are pushing for the XFL rule where I believe only the kickers and the kick returner, the punt returner with the ball can move until the ball is touched, and after that, everybody else can move and start running to make it less injury prone for kickoffs. But even then, I think they're trying to push the kickoff line from the 35 to the 45-yard line, which will just increase more touchbacks. So that might incorporate looking at these guys, these returners, and these gunners on special teams as a more heavy role in the game of the NFL as it becomes our pastime.
yeah, that may be true. I would like to see it where they move the kicker back to the 25 and have
Me too.
longer sustainable kicks. Because remember the teams, the kickoff team and the return team, the blockers and tacklers are only going to be 10 yards from each other and about 20 to 30 yards total from the kick returner.
Mhm.
So there's not going to be as much momentum there to build up for injuries. like we've had in the past. And so I'd like to see it be a more substantial part of the game. I'd hate to see the Packers lose because of special teams yet again, but that's likely what would happen.
Well, I mean, you guys last couple of years, especially last year, you've always on and off have complained about, hey, especially kickers, not so much return team or punt return or tech gunners type stuff, but not even your punter. But a lot of times I've heard you as a Packers fan say, hey, we need to improve our special teams. This is the reason we lost, and a lot of it does fall on the kicker, which they're never going to take kickers and field goals out of the game, but to make it better, I don't think you take out kick returning or or especially punt returning, because that is such a heavy influence on the game. And the reason that Devin Hester or Brian Mitchell or even Dante Hall, the great players of their time, and they were designated to that role because Devin Hester was drafted officially as a cornerback, and then put it as wide receiver and had such a non-noticeable role as a wide receiver that he was literally a kick returner. And to take that away from the game and these players that are, specialized in this is just something that will diminish the game even further than it is. Moving on to our next piece of business, legendary NFL reporter Chris Mortensen dies. This happened, I believe, Monday or over the weekend, and he's been one of those guys that has been a staple in the NFL community for the last decade or two, and it's just tough to see him go because of what he's done for the game of NFL and reporting what he's done. Moving into the juicy stuff, the cuts, the signings, the re-signings, the extensions, and the franchise tags. Not a surprise by anybody, but the Broncos cut Russell Wilson. He's already on the move. He's already meeting with the Giants and the Steelers. The surprise that came from the Broncos, though, was they cut safety Justin Simmons. He will be a very high looked at safety in the NFL and free agency once this cap starts to unravel next week. And I imagine both of our teams, the Packers and the Commanders, are going to be looking heavily at this guy as we are needing a player in that safety position.
Yeah, I'd argue both of the people the Bills just cut, the Commanders are going to turn their heads at. Although I don't like Russell Wilson in DC.
I don't either.
I love Justin Simmons on this Jeff Hafley defense. I absolutely love it, and I'm prepared to pay him. Maybe I wasn't prepared to pay Josh, but I'm prepared to pay Justin Simmons. That's really what I was going for.
What do you mean about me?
For your digital media
my application,
position.
Yeah. So what he's referring to is Packers have internships and different social media and digital media positions open. And I got denied by one of them, so I immediately texted him saying, dude, all you did was not advocate for me at all as an owner. And so that's what he's talking about, all jokes aside. But I don't want to see Russell Wilson in DC at all. I really don't. Either they're drafting somebody or they're drafting Drake May or Caleb Williams. Who the Bears don't draft, basically. I would love to see Justin Simmons as a free safety in Washington.
I do think I'm going to throw the Colts in there as also a potential landing spot for Justin Simmons. One of our three teams, I think, would have a good shot at landing him. But he's also like one of the best safeties in the league right now. So I think there's probably 31 teams that are going to be gunning for him. So it's going to be a very, very tight market. In terms of Russell Wilson, I don't think it's that tight of a market. He has underperformed massively. And the Giants, that would be an improvement. The Commanders, an improvement over what they currently have, but it's not a long-term solution. He's just someone to go in and patch it up. Depending on what happens with, I do think the hottest quarterback on the market this offseason is going to be Kirk Cousins.
I would say him or Justin, depending on what Justin Fields does. Like the trade market / free agency in general, just because of his youth and how young he is, I would say Fields is way up there ahead of Cousins.
I'd say Fields is up there. He does have a lot of stuff on tape that's inconsistent. He also has a lot of stuff on tape that's really good. A lot of Kirk's stuff that's on tape and that he's proven in different offensive systems is that he can adapt and adjust quickly and at a high efficiency level. And so for me, if I'm a GM and I'm looking for a 4-year plug, I'm signing him. I'm signing Kirk Cousins. I don't think the Vikings are going to give him that 4-year deal. I think the reports are saying that's about what he's going to be looking for. I do think a place like New York or a place like Vegas or a place like
Pittsburgh
Atlanta,
even Pittsburgh,
yeah, or Pittsburgh even, yeah, would be willing to do a 4-year deal with Kirk Cousins. And we'll see what happens in Arizona as well. I'm still not sold on Kyler being there full time anymore. I don't think there's any reports about that coming out yet. It will eventually, but my gut tells me Kyler is probably going to be looked at on a trade market somewhere, and Arizona's going to be fine with that. But I do want to see what happens with Kirk Cousins, because I'd like to actually start rooting for the man rather than contractually being obligated to hate him. And so I like any of those places I previously mentioned. Russell Wilson, yeah, I think he's a 1 to 2 year patch wherever he goes. It's not a long term deal. And if that's in New York, he'll make a boatload of money just off the New York media scene. Pittsburgh, I think that's an interesting prospect. I don't know if I like him in that Mike Tomlin offense, though. They need more of a sturdy guy than Russ. All right, let's look at the Bills. Another safety cut. And I told Josh before the podcast, it feels like every safety was cut. No safety is safe. And Jordan Poyer was cut from the Bills, and corner Tre'Davious White, post June 1st, is cut. Two big names coming out of there, and I know Von Miller restructured his deal to stay, and so did Rasul Douglas, which I guess potentially we could have had 4 Bills that were cut, 4 pretty high-end players doing this. What do you got there, Josh?
Jordan Poyer is another one like Justin Simmons, where I would not have a problem with him coming to the Commanders, because it doesn't seem like we're going to re-sign Cameron Curl, which I'm not against, honestly, which we'll get into in a minute. But I feel like Jordan Poyer still, I don't know how old he is. I think he's like mid-30s or early 30s, kind of like Jamal Adams, which we'll get into in a minute. But actually, Jamal Adams is way younger, sorry. But Jordan Poyer is in his mid-30s, but I feel like he still has the ability to play at a high level, and it was more of a cap cut. Same with Tre'Davious White. It is post June 1st, just a safe cap, but I would love to see him in DC pairing up with, because I don't believe we're going to re-sign Kendall Fuller, but I would love to see him in DC paired up with Emmanuel Forbes and everything new that's going to happen on defense with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. It's something exciting, and if we can get some sort of star piece on in the secondary that we didn't have last year, that like a top 5 or at least top 10 player in one of these positions, I think it's going to drastically improve what is going on in the Commander's secondary.
I agree. And I can say the exact same thing about the Packers. So I'd like to see that. Bucks cut Shaq Barrett. I don't think there was a huge surprise there. I do think a surprise coming in, maybe not so much of a surprise. Post June 1, I think they're going to cut Devin White.
I believe so. Yeah, that is. Yeah. He's so young and he's so good. That is another guy that
I want in the Packers.
Yep, I want in Commander City.
Josh, what are our cap situations like? Who has more? Green Bay.
Me? Oh, us. Definitely. We have the second most in the league.
Oh yeah, Chicago won.
I believe the Patriots are actually. Good luck.
There you
go. It says we are still maybe just because the Patriots just signed Hunter Henry, but we are currently number 1 at 96 million. Patriots, we just mentioned at 75 million. Bears at 57.5 million, which probably got lowered recently because they signed Jalen Johnson. They were probably up there in the top 3. Colts at 52 million. And let's see where the Packers are at. They're always negative. Oh, they're at 12 million.
Yeah, we'll go up post June 1 with our cap, but Devin White, I would love to have him in Green Bay. The Chiefs went out and they cut superstar receiver Marquez Valdez Scantling, two-time Super Bowl champion. Neither of those Super Bowls, may I mention, would have been successful without him on their team. So we had that. And Josh, I haven't really cut anyone yet. Have you? Have you cut?
We cut two players that, as much as I wanted to say they had a good tenure here and they had serviceable playing time, this was more of a cap cut or cap hit to not cut them. So the Commanders cut Charles Leno at tackle and tight end Logan Thomas. These guys were eventually going to be cut. Charles Leno we just actually signed him to a 2-year deal, I believe, two or 3 year deal last year or something like that. But I believe it was more of a cap cut than a playing time, I guess, cut, or a how good he was playing cut, because we had Andrew Wiley on the right side. It was just terrible. And maybe we move him to left guard, which is the reason we not going to cut him, is because we have so much cap space, dead cap, that would be allocated if we cut him. But I believe Charles Leno I wouldn't have minded him staying here. I mean, he was serviceable. He was not Andrew Wiley, where he was so bad that I wanted him gone from the second game he played. Logan Thomas was actually a guy I wouldn't have mind having stayed either if he stayed healthy, because when Logan Thomas is healthy, he's very good. Not top 10, not top 20, or not top 15, sorry, but he's very good, and he has, it takes a good quarterback for him to develop, and sadly we don't have that right now. But whenever Logan Thomas played, he was actually pretty good, and he was good at getting open. Anyway, he had that speed to not only get open but break away from the running back, from the cornerbacks or the linebackers if given the chance. So no, I'm not hating these moves, but it's more of a cap cut than a playing, regression type cut.
If I'm being honest, a lot of the times when I build out a roster on Madden, Logan Thomas is oftentimes my tight end, because he's cheap and he's
fast,
super effective.
cheap, and he's
tall. I can't ask for anything more. And then he wants a big contract after 2 years, and I say,
it's him.
Yep, no, we're not going to do that. Probably a large surprise for me was Xavier Howard, post June 1 cut from the Dolphins. He's been one of the staple corners in the league for the past 3 or 4 years now, and now he's just open on the market to go anywhere. At one point, I think in 21 or 22, he was the only corner in quite some time to have 10 plus interceptions in a season.
I believe so.
And so definitely going to get picked up somewhere. And he should theoretically get a good payday from that. Emmanuel Ogbah was also cut, Dolphins linebacker. He'll get signed somewhere.
He's a serviceable player.
Yeah, Eagles come out. Another surprise, another safety cut. Kevin Byard is out. I would not be opposed.
Yeah, I was interested in this one actually, because he was traded from the Titans like last trade deadline or whatever, and I thought he fit so well in there, and he gets cut. And this is another guy. I imagine you are on the same page, where I'd love the Commanders to sign him. He's young. He's a good player, and he'd fit right into the Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. type role.
Yeah. Patriots come out and cut corner J.C. Jackson. I'm not too surprised there. J.C. Jackson had been having a few down years.
Not only a down years, but he's also been injured to the point where 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, Chargers signed him to a massive deal, and then injuries, bad play, whatever, led to him getting traded back to the Patriots, and now he's cut. So I don't know if it's more of a system type of thing for the Patriots, what the Patriots were doing with him, and he's just not good anywhere else. Yeah. Or not. So I'm not sure how he'll be looked at in free agency this coming up season.
Seahawks come out. Big surprise here. Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs out. Free agents. Cut.
I am
not even post June 1.
Yeah, I'm not so much surprised in Jamal Adams. I'm very surprised in Quandre Diggs. Now, probably can speak for both of us here, but I love Quandre Diggs on my team, not so much Jamal Adams, because Jamal Adams is more of a Cameron Curl type player where he's a box safety. He's a sub linebacker basically, and he doesn't make
Also,
turnovers. He just makes tackles.
So the Packers do need someone like that. So our middle linebacker core right now is weak.
Really?
Bottom 20%
Campbell
of
and
the league.
Walker.
Yeah, bottom 20% of the league this past season,
Interesting.
according to PFF. And so having a box safety to come in and be able to do that stuff, would be huge. Having Jeff Hafley, the wizard, as Richard Sherman calls him, come in and help with that, I am not opposed to that. Now, I do, on a very Homer side of things, want to see Keyshawn Nixon play safety. The dude balls out. The dude knows where to be. The dude makes turnovers. I'd take him in almost any position at this point. But I'd like to see him there. Patrick Peterson, he got cut by the Steelers. He's been hopping around from different teams. He went Arizona, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Not too surprised there. He'll probably sign somewhere. He'll be probably a veteran minimum deal coming in and as a nice accessory piece to an organization. And something that did surprise me, and I'm waiting for the other surprise to still come out. The Vikings cut Alexander Mattison. And I get he's not a primary running back, but he is a fantastic duo running back, pairing him with someone else. And so any team that needs a 1B running back rather than a primary running back, I think Alexander Mattison is your top choice. And it sounds like the Packers are going to be in the market for someone like that, probably a rookie through the draft, if I'm guessing. But Alexander Mattison would do very well. And another one that I think I'm going to wait for him getting cut, I think it's coming, of Tony Pollard.
I'm not
He's
sure.
He's another.
I know
great
this is
one.
a very heavy running back market, to the point where, so you got Eckler, of course, you got Barkley, who's not getting franchise tagged, you got another guy like Alexander Mattison, you got Antonio Gibson, who I don't believe the Commanders are re-signing, who can fit that Madison role even probably better, because he was originally drafted as a wide receiver move to running back in his rookie year. And so you got running backs on the market like crazy.
He's going to be on the market as well.
I had you muted. Sorry, what were you saying?
AJ Dillon coming out.
That's right. I don't think
he'll
they're
be a
re-signing
free
him
agent.
either.
I think Derrick Henry as well.
Josh Jacobs is on the market. Yeah.
I mean, it's
But
talk
it's
about the
running
two
back-
positions that are not valued right now. It's safety and running back.
And they're getting cut like crazy, and there's top guys. This isn't like backups getting cut that will provide a serviceable role on special teams or what. But this is like top guys in the league getting cut that any team that's going to willing to pick up.
Yeah. Let's look at some signings and extensions that went on. I'm going to start with this one, and I'm not surprised by it. The Bills re-sign, I guess, he was previously on their team. He went to Pittsburgh, and now he's back, but he's legend in Chicago, Mitch Trubisky. Coming back, representing. He did very well in the Buffalo system. Like, I was not displeased with what he was doing there. And they do really, really good at quarterback development. And so that's a great move on his part to go in and be able to showcase what he can do and continue to develop as a quarterback. I don't think his time is done in the NFL yet. What did Johnny Manziel say? I haven't retired yet.
If not retired, so you can't consider me a bust yet. And I'm not even considering Trubisky a bust, honestly. I mean, he didn't do well as a starter, but he's provided solid backup play whenever he's on the chance. And speaking of Trubisky, he will be wearing number 11 in Buffalo.
Well, there we go.
And I just pulled up my Twitter. Speaking of this, Matthew would like this if he's watching, or will watch. Announced by Jim Irsay himself 7 minutes ago on Twitter, as he always does, kind of like Trump. Jim Irsay's all over Twitter. But Dwight Freeney has asked him and generously accepted to be the inductor for Dwight Freeney into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's very good. Um, here's this something I didn't want to happen, but I'm not surprised that happened. Mike Evans signing an extension. The dude, if he puts up 2 more seasons of what he did, he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Oh no, he's already in the Hall of Fame, man. I think
the wide receiver market is so oversaturated.
It is, but look, it's going to take like Hall of Fame wise. It's going to take Reggie Wayne, Steve Smith, Torrey Holt, and a couple other players I just can't think of off the top of my head. So long get in the Hall of Fame because you're right, it is oversaturated. But if you look at the stats of Mike Evans, none of these guys, I mean, playing talent wise and based off size and talent, a couple of these guys I just mentioned, like Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt and whatnot, probably overlap him. But statistically, if he continues to play like he does, Mike Evans, there's nobody that touches Mike Evans, because Mike Evans I believe Mike Evans has the most seasons now, or tied at least with Jerry Rice for most 1,000-yard seasons. He's not had a single season under 1,000 yards. He's at 11,600 yards. So if you can imagine, what is he, 33? He's 30 years old. If he plays 5 more seasons and has, I doubt it, but 5 more 1,000-yard seasons, he's at, let's just say, 18,000 yards. There's no way you're not getting the Hall of Fame with 18,000 yards as a receiver. And I know Pro Bowls have been sort of a joke recently with, the voting system by fans and whatnot. With 5 Pro Bowls and 2 second-team All-Pros, there's no way you're not getting in. He is immensely talented to the point where even at 35, I know he's 30 years old, but in 5 seasons, if he's a free agent, even in 2 years when his deal's done, and free agent, there's no way he's not going to be like looked at like as a Julio Jones, where like he's getting old. We're not going to pick him up. We might pick him up as a role player, but this guy at 32 years old, 33 years old, when his deal is done, he will be a wide receiver, at least a wide receiver number 2 in the league if he goes to a new team.
Yeah, he's a guy I wanted in Green Bay. I know the impressive thing to me about Mike Evans is he's done it with so many different quarterbacks, and so he did it with Jameis Winston,
Baker,
Tom Brady,
whoever their backups were at that time.
Yeah, and so
I mean, it's a lot easier. Have you seen those videos where it's like for example, Larry Fitzgerald or Andre Johnson? Hey, can you name all the quarterbacks who threw you a touchdown pass? It is as crazy it is. Like Tampa Bay's been so bad, and you think they've been through so many quarterbacks through like the last 10 years of Mike Evans' career. It's so much easier for me to name the quarterbacks that Mike Evans has played for than Larry Fitzgerald or Andre Johnson, where they still put up with bad quarterback play. The other two have put up great numbers with guys like John Skelton or really the only 2 quarterbacks Larry Fitzgerald had was Carson Palmer and Kurt Warner. And then the only quarterback Schwab had, or Johnson had, was Schwab. And so Mike Evans has at least had solid quarterback play throughout his entire career.
Yes, I agree, and I think he will be there, and he's also a Super Bowl champion, which helps.
Yeah.
Commanders go in, they sign someone to replace Logan Thomas.
I'm very excited. We signed Zach Ertz, tight end Zach Ertz. I don't know how old he is, but we signed him on a low deal. I think it was 2 years, 3, 4, 5 million, something like that dollars. So not enough to hit the cap hit of our $90 million. He's 33 years old. But looking at what he did in at Arizona, sorry, not Atlanta, with Cliff Kingsbury, which is our now offensive coordinator, I know he's not like he was in Philadelphia, where he was putting up like borderline 1,000-yard seasons, 800 yards, 900 yards, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns a season. He's not that anymore. I understand that. But he's a guy that is a veteran player, 11 years in the league, has the quality and talent of a very hot top talent tight end. He's just at age, where it's kind of starting to regress. But whether it's Sam Howell or Drake May or Caleb Williams or Jen Daniels or whatever, Zach Ertz is going to be such a help to provide that veteran knowledge and that veteran play to whoever that quarterback is, where it's not only going to help them build and progress as a quarterback, but it will help the overall offense. Let's say we have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson and maybe a free agency wide receiver. Zach Ertz is going to do something completely different than what Logan Thomas was able to do, and which is be open in the middle of the field or even take pressure off of Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson to the point where these guys, other two guys, will get open. And it'll open so much more pass game, run game, even as a blocker, to the point where we have a dynamic offense that we can work with.
That's true. I agree, Josh. Texans re-sign Dalton Schultz. Patriots re-sign Hunter Henry, another couple tight ends that are fairly consistent in their games in their elder age. Dolphins sign Geno Smith, who I think was previously a Colt.
Falcon. Yep. Or Falcon Patriot. I think it was traded mid-season last year.
Okay. Chiefs re-sign linebacker Drew Tranquil. Saints re-sign Tyrann Mathieu. This is the only safety that was getting respect.
Yep. Speaking of Saints, I forgot to put this, and I knew I had to put it. I just forgot, but I believe the Saints are cutting Michael Thomas, at some point, either June 1st or some point in this season. I think he's at that age where he's done. His injuries have caught up to him, and I think they're embracing the not Chris Ivory. He's a running back.
Chris Olave.
Yeah, Chris Olave. Derek Carr, whoever the quarterback is, offense, and Michael Thomas is just kind of sitting there, I guess, rotting per se. If I don't know.
Bears re-sign Jalen Johnson to a 4-year deal. We talked about this earlier on in the podcast when we were talking about cap space. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Packers.
Not for you, but I think the Bears organization as a whole, that is pretty solid.
Yeah. He hasn't stopped the Packers yet. I'm just saying. Rams re-sign guard Kevin Dotson to a 3-year deal. That's a good move. Let's dig into some franchise tags. Bengals franchise tag T. Higgins. I think we saw this coming. They've been working on a deal for quite some time now. This might be a tag and trade situation. There's a few teams that do like T. Higgins quite a bit, and I think they would want him to go to the NFC rather than keep him in the AFC. And so we'll find out what happens. Buccaneers franchise tag Antoine Winfield Jr.
Good move.
Another, killer safety. I am not opposed to that. Chiefs franchise tag L'Jarius Sneed. Colts franchise tag Michael Pittman Jr. I think this one was more of a surprise. He's been relatively consistent, but he hasn't been top of his game in the league, and so I would not have been surprised if they had split this offseason and he went elsewhere. This one did surprise me, but I mean, if this is what they're looking for doing, I guess that's fine.
It was more of a personality or personnel move more than a hey, we can replace this guy at some point. I think it's more so he has a limited amount of chemistry, but he has the chemistry with Anthony Richardson compared to whoever they draft or whoever they sign or whatever. To the point where it was just the smartest move to re-sign somebody they have in the building at that talent rather than just go get somebody else. So, I thought they would split too. Maybe they're working on a long-term deal, but I think this was just overall the smartest move to keep Anthony Richardson's game progressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point there too, Josh. Jaguars franchise tag Josh Allen. Good choice there. He's been a solid outside linebacker for him. Yeah, not the quarterback. Outside linebacker.
I was looking at these two guys, this one and then one we're about to mention, as a edge rusher or outside linebacker for the Commanders, and sadly they're off the market. So I don't even know who's next up that we can sign.
They're not off the market.
Technically, they're not. But
some teams do go and tag and trade.
Yeah,
because they try to get.
But if you think about it, so they franchise tag him. But if you heard the rumors last year, the Rams offered them the Panthers, which the Panthers franchise tag Brian Burns, which we're talking about now. So just to get that out of the way, the Panthers franchise tag Brian Burns, which is probably the top defensive end on the market, maybe even top free agent. But the last offseason, the Rams offered Panthers a first-round pick and a second-round pick. A second-round pick the next year, in like a 6th and 7th for Brian Burns, and they declined it. And now they're in this thing where they might not even get him next year because they might not re-sign him next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, they don't have a first-round pick, the Panthers, because they traded that to the Bears. So they're really. I'm regretting that move as if I'm the Panthers, honestly.
I think the Panthers are regretting a lot of things right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Josh, what do we got else coming up?
Patriots transition tag safety Kyle Duggar. I think he's a solid player, but the transition tag comes with. It's like he's not a top tier player, but he's a valuable player to the point where if any teams are interested, they can offer a contract to him. And if the Panthers or the Patriots don't want to offer back, they get him, but the Patriots get two first round picks in return. So a very smart move by the Patriots. And then the Ravens franchise tag, a guy that came out of nowhere this season, in my opinion, Justin Madupik. I'd say that's a very. I mean, if he continues to play like he is, I'd say that's a very top defensive tackle in the next coming years.
Mm-hmm.
Trade rumor. We're down to the very last couple things. Trade rumors. And who do we want? Do we want our player teams to re-sign or sign? So trade rumors with two. I think the only one we have to talk about really is Justin Fields getting traded.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. I know Atlanta reports came out and said they were waiting to see what happened with Kirk.
I've heard rumors besides that, I've heard rumors that there is a deal. Of course, you have to wait till the new season happens, but you can like trade as much as you want. It just matters when the new season starts. But I've heard there's been like a trade in place that they're very close to getting done. Just a matter of different things worked out. That Justin Fields has a package in place for the Falcons.
Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe,
but I do know the Steelers came out and said no, thank you.
I thought they were still interested.
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
Steelers backed out. Atlanta, I think it's fine. I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas was involved. I could see him doing well in Vegas. That's kind of a high-speed offense, which is kind of his thing. I could also see him, if Kyler Murray goes away, I could see him in Atlanta or in Arizona as well. Operating a similar thing, but we'll wait and see about Justin Fields, and then who do we want our teams to sign and re-sign?
So
well, I'm going to start with a couple.
Just go over
I think
the players that were cut, the players that are on the free agency market that haven't been re-signed. Who are your top 5 guys at any position that you want to see on your team to help the Packers improve?
First and foremost, everyone's going to ask me what receiver we're going to get. I don't think we're getting a receiver in free agency. I'm just going to throw that out there. We'll probably pick up 1 or 2, maybe day 2 or 3 in the draft. We're definitely going to be picking up defensive pieces. That's going to be the big thing. We renegotiated Preston Smith's deal. We haven't gone through and made any major cuts. I imagine that will start happening today. David Bakhtiari, big name out there. Still an effective player, just can't stay on the field. A.J. Dillon, I think we know he's out. That hurts me a little bit because I've been very publicly pro A.J. Dillon for a number of years now.
We've seen him in person. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and I like everything he does. I've watched him in person make touchdowns, plowing through people. It's been fantastic. But I do think A.J. Dillon is out. We're still working through a number of the offensive line members. John Runyon Jr. may be out. Not too sure about that yet. But we'll just keep waiting and seeing what'll happen. In terms of people I want us to sign, I've mentioned at least every safety that is available right now. I think that still holds true. I do think there's margin for Alexander Mattison if he's a veteran minimum deal, or maybe a trade for Tony Pollard. I think either one of them would work well as a 1B running back to Aaron Jones. I think the Packers are going to try to pick up someone in the draft, though. There's a few people they like to come in and fill that role. We did bring in a kicker for competition, and we all know what that means, is that competition kicker will be cut, and we're still going to have Anders Carlson. So not overly thrilled there. And I expect a couple veteran offensive linemen to be in the swing for the Packers. Get a couple more people in there, and maybe a corner that hits the market, pending Eric Stokes. I like Eric Stokes a lot. The problem with him is he's just hit injuries, and it's been tough for him to come back. Um, he plays very good sticky man coverage, and so he's fast and he can make up stuff. He does a 4.4 40, and he's going against receivers that are doing 4.7, 4.8, and that bodes very well in his favor. What do you got, Josh?
So for me, I will go over the players that are free agents, the major players, not the backups, and if I believe they'll be gone, or if I believe I want them gone. So of course we talked about Charles Leno and Logan Thomas. They've already been cut. I wanted them gone, just not from a playing standpoint, but from a cap hit standpoint. Curtis Samuel, I don't see him being re-signed. He's getting up there in age. He's a valuable player whenever he's healthy. He creates yardage after the catch. He's a very solid player. Just I believe there's other players on the market that we might be targeting, which I will be getting to in a minute. Kendall Fuller, I also talked about. He's 29 years old. I believe he turns 30 this year, maybe. So he's as a cornerback and a player that is very active in different things. He's getting up there in age as well. I'm indifferent. I want him back because I don't know how good besides Trey Davis White and Xavier Howard. I don't know if there's anybody in the market that I actually like. So I'm not opposed to seeing him back, but I don't think he'll be back just based off what I've seen from talks. Jacoby Brissett, I don't think he'll be back just because either we go Sam Howell and we sign another backup or even draft one, or B, we draft a quarterback and then make Sam Howell the backup. So I don't see Brissett being a backup or Brissett coming back. Cody Barton, you can get him out of here. I really don't care. He's a terrible. I don't know why we signed. I don't know why we signed him last year. I don't know what Ron Rivera was thinking, but you can get him out of here. Cornelius Lucas, he's a solid backup, but I believe we just caught Charles Leno. I don't think he'll be back just because of that reason. I think we're trying to restart something new on the offensive line with a lot of players except Sam Cosmi. Antonio Gibson, I want him back. He's a very serviceable player, very young at 25, almost 26. So he can be a solid 1-2 punch with Brian Robinson in the passing game for him, and then the running game for Robinson. I'd like him back. I will say that. Jeremy Reeves, our special teams player, very solid special teams player and very solid safety as a backup. I'd love to see him back, although he was injured, so it's kind of unclear if they will resign him and give him a second chance. And then Joey Sly, our kicker. He misses some field goals, he makes some, but I'd say he's a solid kicker, and I want him back. And now, who I want in free agency, based off the players I just named that might be going or might be leaving or whatnot, wide receiver wise, I'd love to see Gabe Davis at 25 years old, and Marquise Brown at 27 years old. Both of them very speedy receivers, especially Marquise Brown, that can fit that Curtis Samuel role that I don't believe Curtis Samuel will be coming back. So I'd love to see Gabe Davis or Marquise Brown in that wide receiver 3 or 2 role, depending on where we put Jahan Dotson, because Terry McLaurin's already number 1. Tackle wise, if we don't draft a quarterback, I believe we're going to draft a tackle and trade down a bit. But if we don't draft a tackle in the draft, my top 2 guys for tackle, especially left tackle and right tackle, are Tyron Smith, who is being rumored to leave and being done with Dallas. He is 33, but he's a top tier talent at left tackle still, or even right tackle still, and I believe he'll be serviceable for the Commanders, especially knowing that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., although defensive players, have a personality that is very liked by players in Dallas, and Tyron Smith was in Dallas. So there is links to Tyron Smith coming to the Commanders at some point, I believe. Trent Brown, who is another guy, kind of old, 31 years old, but can be very serviceable and a clear upgrade of what we have in Andrew Wiley and Charles Leno. So those are I want at offensive line or offensive tackle. Interior offensive line, I'd love Mike Onwenu from the Patriots, very young player, solid guard. Put him on the left side next to our center and tackle, where we have right guard at Sam Cosmi, and I believe we have a very set interior offensive line. Edge rush, I kind of mentioned I really would have loved Josh Allen and Brian Burns. I don't really see anybody on the market that I can see me wanting to take very badly, except Danielle Hunter. So besides Danielle Hunter, I don't see nobody catches my eye. So it's very tough for the edge market. We're set on defensive line. Although if we trade Jonathan Allen for some picks, I wouldn't be mad at all if we picked up guy. There is a very very heavy loaded class with defensive tackles such as Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, Leonard Williams, and Fletcher Cox. I believe Fletcher Cox actually is signing back with the Eagles. So I wouldn't be mad if we traded somebody like Jonathan Allen or Daron Payne, who we just re-signed the last 2 years, and then draft this guy as a better talent because it makes sense, but it doesn't at the same time. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. Linebacker, our biggest weakness on defense. I would love, love, love to see Patrick Queen, Jordan Brooks, or Bobby Wagner, or even Levante David and Devin White if they end up cutting him on the Commanders. Now, not Patrick Queen. Bobby Wagner, sorry. Bobby Wagner has links to Dan Quinn when Dan Quinn was a DC for Legion of Boom in Seattle. So that is a very big possibility that I would love to see happen. He is 33 years old, but he was an All-Pro last year, and he's playing at a high level at 33 years old, and he's a veteran. I can't imagine if we draft a linebacker in the second or third round and Bobby Wagner's there that we will have such a great player for that rookie to grow with and develop with, and even Levante David or Bobby Wagner that I would be thrilled to have on the team. And then, like we talked about earlier, safeties, Justin Simmons or Jordan Poyer is somebody I would personally look at for the Commanders because we're letting go of Cameron Curl, it seems like. So overall, those are the guys I am looking at for the Commanders that can clearly improve this team with what we have. And I'm excited for everybody overlooks NFL free agency, but for me, it's like the second coming of Christmas because you're getting new players on the team. You're seeing where these guys go. You're surprised that Tom Brady left the Patriots. You're surprised that Peyton Manning chose the Broncos over the Titans or the 49ers or whatnot. And it's just an exciting time that even if the Commanders or the Packers don't sign these guys, I'm very excited to see where everybody else goes and how that team molds into these players. Is that all we have, Brandon?
That's all I have.
Yeah. So that's all we have for now. Just a quick recap of what is happening in free agency, the cuts, the rumors, or whatnot. I believe we'll be back next week in case our schedules don't align. We should be back next week on next Thursday at our original time of 11:30 on Thursday to go over because free agency starts next Wednesday. I'd imagine tampering starts next Monday. So we will back to go over all the agency tamperings, the signings, and whatnot, the trades as the new year starts. So catch us back next week as we talk about all that stuff, and thank you for watching.